I feel like when it comes to dating apps, when someone is emotionally available and is consistent and is asking you questions and is very responsive, sometimes they're punished for it because, unfortunately, in our modern dating now, we see it as, oh my God, you're too clingy. You're too much. It's creepy. It's weird. It's cringe. Like, we don't kind of reward that.
Yeah.
And then where someone is a bit more avoidant and emotionally distant,
Yes.
it makes us feel like now we have something to prove, and it makes that mysteriousness desirable to us.
Right.
So what we end up doing is we reward this behavior that is emotionally unavailable, and we punish this one.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Relationships with Ericka Ush, the podcast where we talk about relationships and how to get better at them. Today, my guest is Aya Shalak. She is a mental health focused coach and counselor based in Canada, and she is currently pursuing her master's in clinical counseling and psychotherapy. Her work sits at the intersection of emotional awareness, relationships, identity, and personal growth. She is certified in Therapeutic Crisis Intervention and has worked in frontline mental health and youth support. Aya is also pursuing advanced training in cognitive behavioral trauma-informed coaching. She is especially passionate about exploring how early attachment, trauma, culture, and life transitions shape the way that we love, date, and relate to others. She values honest conversations, emotional accountability, and growth-oriented relationships. Her approach is a powerful blend of tough love and humor and direct questions, encouraging her clients to reflect deeply and become active agents in their own healing. So thanks, Aya, for being here with me today. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited as well.
Yay! So tell me a little bit about yourself and what made you become interested in mental health.
I think it started really early on. When I was 12 years old, I started volunteering for the first time, and it was very important for my dad to kind of instill those values in us. My twin brother is also Down syndrome, which I think is more of a gift, to be honest, because I've learned so much more from him than I could ever teach him. And I think that just initially sparked my interest in the first place. I love people. I'm a social person. And the more I worked with people from different walks of life, I had never felt more alive than when I did that. And I figured very early on that that was my purpose and that was what I was meant to do. And it's funny because I once found a paper, like when I was in grade 3, they asked us in our homework to like write what we wanted to be when we grew up. And it's so crazy to me that since then I said, oh, I want to be a psychologist. I want to help people. I want to be around where all the stories are being told. And I just really wanted to understand the reasons why we are the way we are, basically.
Well, that's amazing. So you must be a really amazing space holder listening to all of those.
I hope so. My grandma was, and I think I was very close to her, and I kind of learned that from her. I think people are healers not just by their vocation, but also the type of person that they are. And I was fortunate enough to have those types of role models growing up.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, lucky us too. So the topics that, I like to discuss are around dating and relationships. When it comes to attachment theories, how do they affect how we date?
When it comes to attachment, personally, I love to refer to Bowlby. He's one of the first ones they taught us back in university. But in a nutshell, it says that as adults, we mirror the type of relationships and care and responsiveness that we got from our caregivers. We carry those patterns with us, we internalize them. And unless you do the work, you're continuously mirroring that, the positives and the negatives of it. So in a sense, we're kind of pursuing our childhood wounds in the partners that we choose as we grow up.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, one of my favorite questions when I'm dating, when I'm online dating, there are a couple of things actually. One I really like to ask people is how their parents met.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like that.
It's actually one question that's really sparked a lot of conversation. And it also kind of gives me a bit of insight into their family and their family dynamics. Yeah.
Do you ask them what their attachment style is?
I never go that deep. I'm just more like trying to analyze it myself afterwards, not as a professional or anything, but I like to kind of see, what was their family history, what was their experience, because I'm wondering if that's what they're going to bring into a potential relationship.
Yeah, which is understandable because, we model what we see and not always, but usually what we grew up with is what we think is right or what feels familiar to us. And that's what our nervous system is attached to in a nutshell. You know, like sometimes if you grew up in a household that was very chaotic or very problematic, and then you meet someone who's maybe a bit more avoidant or not as emotionally available, we kind of confuse that chaos as passion.
Right.
And we end up pursuing it because that's what's familiar to our nervous system in a sense.
So that passion feels like it's love.
Exactly. And that's kind of the tricky part where, you know, we talk about things like chemistry and compatibility and compassion and all these like C's. I just realized as I was saying them. But they're two very different things. The chemistry and compassion, completely different, and compatibility as well. Because chemistry can be that initial spark.
Right.
But just because you have it doesn't mean it's really going to last. It does honestly come down to compatibility. And when we say compatibility, it means your set of values. Because I think initially what we used to think before was if you have communication and trust, a relationship will last. And those are great things to have in a relationship, but it's not enough. And love is not enough either. It comes down to the compatibility where do you guys share the same set of values? Because if you don't, it's going to be very, very hard to kind of resolve the conflicts that will come in any relationship.
For sure. And maybe things like long-term goals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's difficult for people to have those conversations up front?
I think so. And it also kind of depends on your culture, your upbringing, as well as your self-worth. Because when we have low self-worth, it's more of us trying to prove to the other person, I'm worth loving, I'm amazing too.
Pick me.
Exactly, because we're kind of chasing that validation that we were supposed to get unconditionally growing up.
Right.
And when we lack that, we kind of search for that in others, and then we tend to shrink ourselves in the beginning and show a different image of who we are, kind of just mirroring what we think the other person wants to see. So then it's hard to have those uncomfortable conversations because you think, oh, but what if I push them away? If I make it a little bit difficult or if I challenge their thinking or, you know,
Right.
It's not comfortable.
No, it's not. And I think, you know, maybe one of the ways around that is really developing a lot of confidence.
Absolutely.
Do you think confidence is what's key?
Confidence is key in what?
Well, key in trying to have the relationship that you really want.
I think so, because with confidence also comes boundaries, and you kind of start deciding this is what I'm okay with and this is what I'm not okay with. You can get that chemistry that we talked about in the beginning, and then if you have high confidence, you can kind of filter it out, where I could be attracted to you, but that doesn't have to make you a good partner. You could be a nice guy, but you're not the compatible partner or the right partner for me, and that's okay. You don't have to always give reason. And I feel like as women, because we're nurturers and we're very empathetic, we fall into the trap of, but he's a really nice guy, maybe I should give him a chance.
Yes.
But honestly, your body knows. And that's kind of the shift from being a girl to a woman. You know, we think back and it's like, oh, if the first person I ever liked, if I married him, it would have been a disaster.
Yes.
And as you grow, you get that intuition and that gut feeling where even if he's a great guy and he's not really doing anything wrong, your body kind of just rejects him. You just know this is not the right person for you.
Right.
And self-worth allows you to walk away because you're not settling for someone because of your fear of being alone and fear of not finding someone else and not seeing that another person is going to find you amazing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say dating has definitely changed a lot for me over the years. And a lot of other women that I talk to, and they're like, I'm in my 40s now. So I think that you sort of filter through a person a lot faster. Like, I think that they've done the work, you know, but it's a lot harder if you haven't built up that confidence, like you said, to, you know, put those boundaries in place and also be okay with that person's reaction, because we don't always know what it's going to be, right? There's that saying too, they're like, you don't really know someone until, you know, you've broken up with them or you've ended a relationship with them. And I think a lot of us fear that reaction from people.
Yeah, it's understandable and it's normal. And also I do like give kudos to you for dating. You know, dating can be so hard. And I have friends who, you know, they're in their 30s right now, we're in their late 20s, and they're like, I don't want to date. Like, I'm not going to go out here and date. Like, if someone sets me up, it's fine. But,
Right.
And it's like, I encourage people to date all the time. And people, oh, do you go and do you date? Yes, of course I do.
Yeah.
Because the thing with dating as well, and why it's nice to go out and have those conversations, is you also realize what you don't want in a partner, which I think is more important. It's more important for you to know what your deal breakers are. like what is absolutely important for you to have in your partner more than what you just want, because it's easy to be with someone when everything's great. It's easy to be with someone when it's their best. You don't want that person that you can only share the fun moments with. You also want to be with someone that can suffer with you. You know, it's the person that's going to hold your hand in the ER. It's the person that's going to be able to kind of find that nuance and that color in your life and is able to have those difficult conversations with you.
Yeah.
And the more sheltered you are, the harder it is for you to actually know if things early on are red flags or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's one question that I really like. Sometimes if I'm having a conversation with a girlfriend, or even a client when they're really struggling with if they see a potential future with this person, and depending on what their goals are, for the relationship, but most of the time it's like, I'm looking for somebody that I want to be in a long-term relationship with. I want to get married to. And I'm like, do you see yourself growing old with this person? Like, can you see yourself growing old, based on everything that you've experienced? And sometimes I find that's really telling.
Yeah. I mean, I also feel like there's a difference between like love as a concept and love like the feeling and being in love. Because when you're in love, you get to that other level where commitment comes in.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I like someone. Oh my God. And they like me back too. Okay, this is great. But this is just the beginning. That's not enough, to start a relationship with someone. Because then with the commitment comes the intention. In a sense, you start to figure out their childhood wounds, their flaws, how they argue, how they fight, how they are on their bad days as well. And then you set that intention to commit to that person and to commit to choosing them every day, regardless of what part of the spectrum they're on today, if they're their best self or not. And we call that term a dissolution, where you start seeing the person's flaws, and sometimes even the quirks that you liked in the person initially start to bother you and start to annoy you. And that's where most relationships fall out, like in the dating phase. So getting to that second part of the commitment, it can be difficult, but that's kind of where the in love foundation starts to be built in, because love is a fleeting feeling in a sense. So you want to make that commitment to choose that person over and over again every single day.
Oh, that can be so tough.
It can be. Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, I want to talk to you about dating apps. So, how do you feel like dating apps trigger our attachments?
Oh my God. Okay.
Because it's very different now, like from, 10 years ago, even. I think people were still, maybe even actually before that, but people were still kind of doing the traditional model of dating, like where I'd be out in the street and someone thinks you're pretty and they'll come up and talk to you, or we were out somewhere and someone actually will approach you. Whereas now, like, everything's sort of accessed at your fingertips.
Yeah. And it's funny because me and my friends, we joke about it all the time. And there's that one guy that's always liking every single one of your stories. And I'm like, are you going to man up and talk to me? Or you're going to ask me out? Like, I might still reject you, but like, ask me out, be chivalrous about it. Okay. So back to the dating apps. I think modern dating punishes emotionally available people because with the swiping culture and the options, it's just so quick right now. And it goes back to your attachment style as well, because, you could be secure where you're responsive, you're emotionally accessible, you're consistent. You could be avoidant where the closeness makes you feel overwhelmed and it's very uncomfortable and you kind of withdraw and you push away from that. And you could be anxious where you're in a continuous pursuit of that closeness because maybe you have like a fear of abandonment. And sometimes you can have a disorganized one, which is a mix of the last two that I mentioned. So it's kind of like a push and pull. It's a self-perpetuating loop of that. And I feel like when it comes to dating apps, when someone is emotionally available and is consistent and is asking you questions and is very responsive, sometimes they're punished for it because unfortunately in our modern dating now, we see it as, oh my God, you're too clingy.
Yeah.
You're too much. It's creepy. It's weird. It's cringe. Like, we don't kind of reward that.
Yeah.
And then where someone is a bit more avoidant and emotionally distant, it makes us feel like now we have something to prove, and it makes that mysteriousness desirable to us.
Right.
So what we end up doing is we reward this behavior that is emotionally unavailable, and we punish this one. And in the long term, I feel like it turns to kind of a type of conditioning to where emotionally available people now are a bit more guarded.
Yes.
Because, every action has a reaction and you kind of, as a result, become more guarded and you want to keep your cards closer to yourself and you're afraid of that exposure and that vulnerability because every time you do that, you're getting a reaction where it's not reciprocated. Whereas when you withdraw and you're not as responsive, the person is pursuing you more and more. And that's kind of what we call now the nonchalance, which I hate. Like, you can keep your nonchalance away from me.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So yeah, unfortunately, that's what it is, when it comes to modern dating. And then you have social media where we think we have so many options, and it's just so easy now, you just ghost, you don't continue a conversation. There's no accountability. There's no consequence for it. Yeah, there are like 100 other options that I could just swipe through after. So I don't really need to, invest into this conversation. And it's exhausting, unfortunately.
It is exhausting. Yeah. I feel like you almost need a strategy going into online dating so that you have ways to, kind of protect yourself, but then also get the results that you want, And I think this happens often, you touched on it too, where you just kind of like start talking to one person and you're so invested in this one person. But I think a lot of people need to realize that, on the apps, people are talking to multiple people. Yeah. So it's also in one way good for you to talk to multiple people so that you have the possibility of getting more dates. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
For me personally, if I really, really clicked with someone and I felt a very deep connection, I'm not going to pursue another connection. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's a black and white. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to go about it. It's more of kind of meeting people where they are and kind of knowing where you are as well. Like, what is your intention? What are you ready for right now? Are you ready to be in a long-term relationship? Are you ready to be that vulnerable? Or are you just dating because you're trying to forget someone else, let's say? You know, there are multiple reasons why people go on dating apps. And I respect that, like, now we have the option to put that on our profile. Like, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I'm looking for a short-term relationship. And I do have those conversations with my clients, and I have those conversations in my personal life as well. Yeah. And it's nice because I feel like it's all in the delivery. Yeah. Where when you're really like intentional and respectful and you clearly communicate to someone what your dating goals are, sometimes you do get that response where, oh, I don't think, our goals align. I don't think I'm in that space. I just came out of a really long-term relationship, and I don't think I'm ready to immerse myself in something that long-term. So the dating apps are good in a sense and bad in a sense where, maybe you don't want to date outside of your culture. Maybe you don't want to date outside your religion. Maybe you have, certain expectations, and you can have that there. It's all about kind of also showing up with that honesty and, being able to communicate what you want without fear of pushing those people away and dating people for their potential, which I think is going to be our generation's downfall. Yes. The romanticizing and the ruminating. And I feel like we grieve people sometimes because we're grieving the idea of the person that we thought they could be. Sure. We're grieving the relationship that we thought we could have, or even the version of ourselves that we thought we could be with them. Yes. And it's not the actual person. And sometimes it was never that person to begin with. And one of my closest friends, oh my God, she was with this horrible guy for so long. Oh no. And she's so great. And she's amazing. She has so much to offer. But then, after a long time, she told me, I realized that relationship was so great because I made it great. Right. The memories that we made that were so great that I cherished, those were all my ideas. There were things that I brought towards the table. It was never him. So it's kind of like, it's okay to grieve that. And it's okay to grieve the person as if they were the right person, but knowing that they weren't. Yes. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does. Yeah, and I guess we're not really basing things on their actions. We're just basing on, how we hope that they would be.
Exactly. And it's hard. I understand that. It's hard, but we have to be like really honest with ourselves and kind of have a bit of a realistic expectation. And it's okay to pivot. It's okay to meet someone who's so great and it's not going to work out, and that's fine. And sometimes they're not compatible for you. They might be compatible for someone else. I've actually introduced someone to a friend of mine. I went out on a date with him. He was a great guy. I didn't think he was going to be compatible or right for me. Right. And I told my friend, I know you're going to think this is weird, but, they ended up going out. They've been in a relationship for 3 years. It's going well for them. So go on the date. It's okay.
Okay, Aya's also a matchmaker. Everyone. That's a really beautiful story. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So I'll just take a minute for our sponsors. With Valentine Erickson, it's personal. Choose Erickson Law Firm for your legal needs in 2026. They provide sound solutions to our clients' legal problems in a personalized, responsive, and cost-effective manner. Call him directly at 613-692-5885 for real estate, wills, and estates and tax law. All right. So I'll throw a fun question
I'm going to
in
get
here.
canceled.
We're both getting canceled today. Who pays on the first date?
The man.
Yes.
Was that the answer you wanted?
That was the answer I wanted.
Absolutely the man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's okay if the woman wants to pay on the first date. That's fine. Like, do you? Personally, I would never pay on the first date.
Yeah.
It's more for me like a cultural thing, I guess. It's just,
Sure.
the way I was brought up and kind of the gender roles that I believe each person should have.
Yes.
In our culture, men are providers. And I'm attracted to masculine men. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of masculinity in provision. I think it sets the tone. It's not about like the dependence of it. It's more about the effort. It's the leadership. You're setting that tone. And I think women are reciprocators and the men are initiators. I don't think there's anything wrong with, the woman taking the man out sometimes or getting him a gift or planning a nice date. But you asked me out on the first date, you're going to pay on the first date. I'm not going to be the one to do that.
And, just before we had our session, we talked a little bit about safety too. And I think there's also that element of like feeling secure and feeling safe and taken care of, which is something I personally enjoy. And I mean, forget about the first date. I won't pay for any meals. I mean, I will never pay for dinners.
What if it's his birthday?
For his birthday, for sure. For his birthday, I'll pay, for meals. And I like to show my partner or, who it is that I'm dating. I mean, obviously, I love to show love and affection, and I like to give little gifts or whatever it is, but I'll never pay for meals when we're out.
And, there's always going to be that one man who's going to, because I've been on podcasts before, and it's always the men that come at you with, do women take any accountability for anything at all? Like, do you not understand how much money and effort and time it takes for me to get my hair done, get my nails done, get my makeup done, look good, look nice? And I'm not saying that you need to go all out like on the first date and you need to look a certain way, but when I look at myself, it's like, well, I put effort in this place, the man is attracted to a beautiful woman, so I did my part, And I feel like I can reciprocate in other ways where I'm going to cook you a meal. I think there's so much more intimacy in me cooking you a meal for you. I feel like it's a love language. Yeah. And I will always do that. And I will go out of my way to buy the best ingredients and the most expensive one. I have no problem with doing that. So it's not about the material measurement of it or the monetary measurement of it. I just think, like I said in the beginning, it's like kind of setting that tone and taking that initiative. Like if you ask me out on a date, I expect you to be the one that's going to pay for it. And to each their own. And I don't think that women should be punished for honoring their cultural expectations and their cultural beliefs. I think it's normal.
Yeah, we do bring a lot to the table.
We do.
Yeah. And, there's the talk about like women being able to multiply everything, right? Like, if you give us a house, we'll give you a home. and I love those. I love those things. And they're true. I really do see them come to fruition in real life. And, like you were talking about cultural things, even just the paying thing. It's like if we ever went out for dinner, my dad's always the one who would pay for everybody. That was.
And they enjoy it. That's the thing. That's like why to each their own. But I find like in my culture, like Arab men, they love being the provider. Yeah. Like even if I'm like, okay, I'm going to meet you there. No, I'm picking you up. No, but I have a car and I'm picking you up. Like they love to do it. And we love to be taken care of in a sense. And being taken care of means different things to different people. Right. Like I'm not shaming the opposite side of it. There's nothing wrong with that. I just personally think it's extremely masculine. And I think that those men enjoy it. And, I love saying like meet people where they are. I don't think it's right to have an expectation of going to the most expensive and the fanciest place for fine dining. Like I've gone on coffee dates. Right? I don't know if you've seen that clip where, I don't go on coffee dates. I don't go on walking dates. There's nothing wrong with going on a coffee date. I prefer a coffee date on the first day because if it's awkward and it's not working, I don't want to be stuck there cutting my steak for like the next 20 minutes and it's like the awkward silence. No, it's okay. We'll have that coffee and we'll call it a day.
No, I had that happen recently and he was a really lovely person. I mean, someone I could definitely see as a friend or whatnot, but I knew right away. And I thought to myself, this is why people go on coffee dates.
Girl, I got a story for you.
Let's hear it.
I got a story for oh my God. I met someone online. Oh my God. I met someone online once. He was in a different country. And he's like, I am flying out. I am coming to meet you. Da, 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 da. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, like this guy is like going all out. And of course, this was before I knew what love bombing was and whatever. We're not going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about love bombing.
Oh my God, I've got a lot of stories for you. But yeah, so, and it's so sad because like he was saying all the right things and he was like, I'm coming for a weekend, and he booked, like this literally happened. I can like show you the videos. He booked a helicopter ride. He
Wow.
booked, we went to the Shore Club, and he was like, I'm going to rent a car. I'm going to come pick you up. I'm coming straight from the airport. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I was like, whoa.
Yes.
You know, and usually I'm very like, you know, pensive at first. I'm like, no. And
Right.
my friend has my location and whatever. And I'm like, telling my friend, oh my God, look at this guy. Like, it's going to be great. I swear to God, Ericka, I swear, not even like 5 seconds after sitting down at the table, I hated him.
Oh no.
And I get along with anyone,
Yes.
you know, like I can get along with you. I could not stand him. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is here for a whole entire weekend. And I felt so bad. But yeah, that's what it was. So don't do that. Don't go for the coffee date. There's nothing wrong with the coffee date.
Clearly, this is a very good example. It's just like we were talking about, you know, men being providers, like masculine, feminine energies. Do you find that sometimes women aren't very careful about the fragility of men's feelings, you know, like emasculating them, you know, in some cases? Do you find that that's a common issue?
I think
Maintaining that balance, you know, like within a relationship?
I think so, but I think we're getting better at it because I really do think the conversation is happening more and more now.
Like men's mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think, like, even emasculation, like it's been there, and I think it's more prevalent maybe in my parents' generation because like none of these conversations existed, and it was emasculating if the man even talks about it. You know, if he even talks about his emotions, it's been discouraged for generations, and obviously in some cultures more than others. And I do think it's okay to say, like, yeah, as women, we do have some sense of entitlement. And we do feel like, you know, they need to carry that baggage. And that's the thing. That's why I feel like even if you expect the man to be like, since we're talking about the provider aspect of things, even if he's going to be 100% the provider, I feel like it's very important before you get married or get into a long-term committed relationship, you should go out there and work really hard and establish your career for yourself, absolutely, and for your own safety, but also because you will appreciate him a bit more and you will appreciate what he's bringing to the table. And some coaches actually argue that men should not open up about their emotions and about their fears or financial burdens to women, and they think that that kind of ruins the image and she shouldn't really worry about that. I don't know, like, to each their own. But I do think that women should be a bit more compassionate, a bit more careful. They have feelings just like us. They're the only beings that are not unconditionally loved. You know, they always have to provide something. They always have to earn it. And there's a lot that comes with that. And men, they don't go to their friends and have these conversations. They don't really have a lot of people to lean on.
They need a safe place too.
Exactly. And it's like scientifically proven, like literally 8 minutes, like having a conversation with someone you trust and having that safe space held for you just for 8 minutes can do insane things for your mental health. So we can also provide that for the men that we're dating. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's very wrong of us to think that it's emasculating for them to come to us with their emotional burdens as well. I think it's our duty as partners to provide those spaces for them. And I think it strengthens the relationships, you know, when you guys struggle together rather than when you just get the fruits of the labor in a sense.
I think those are really important conversations when you're looking at a relationship long term. If you are thinking about getting married, like at some point you are going to either be joining your finances. So it's important to, you know, to have those conversations about, yes, do we have any debts coming into this? Do we have a plan to take care of it together or, you know, or whatnot, so that everyone's kind of going in on the same page, you don't have those surprises later.
Oh yeah. A lot of relationships end because of, you know, financials not being very transparent, I would say, like the lack of transparency when it comes to the financial situation and kind of like what the plan is moving forward. So it's very important to set that tone from the beginning. Absolutely.
And even just in regards to communication, like one thing that I wasn't exposed to before, but, you know, I definitely learned about it through my dating journey was nonviolent communication. I mean, I definitely wasn't exposed to that growing up. You know, it was never something that I studied or was taught about in school, but I think it's really important in relationships. And now I'm a great communicator. I think sometimes I'm an over communicator, but do you have any thoughts on nonviolent communication or just like trying not to harm someone when you're communicating with them?
Absolutely. Like we should always have that intention. But I also think we're going to make those mistakes. And that's where the accountability part comes.
Yes.
Because it's great for you to like apologize when you make mistakes or you harm someone when you're trying to deliver a message across. Because sometimes, we're coming from a place of hurt and we unintentionally hurt the other person as well. But then comes the hard part where it's easy for me to say sorry and okay, I forgive you, we're done, we're good to go. But then it's like, am I going to go do that again?
Right.
There's that accountability part of, are you going to course correct?
Yeah.
Or are we going to go through this violent loop over and over again?
Yeah.
And, a lot of mental health issues are tied into this, whether it's depression or covert depression, because you see those couples that have been fighting for years, and violent communication is like one of the foundations of their relationship. If you take that away, the relationship doesn't survive.
Right. They're not getting that hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like your nervous system is addicted to that. It's getting almost a dopamine hit from it.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the confusion, of our attraction and whatnot. Your nervous system is alert all the time. You don't know who you are without this. You don't know what your relationship looks like. You have nothing left without it. And it's so much easier to just stay in that toxic relationship where you guys are constantly hurting and harming each other, and you find them, they won't walk away. They're just so used to it. And that's the unfortunate part. Like in our biology, our brains are wired to seek situations that are familiar. It gives us that comfortability rather than kind of like walking away from something that no longer serves you, or even trying to just be better. And even if you're going to stay with your partner, it's just like, how can I be better? How can I show up in a way that serves us rather than constantly is harming us?
Sure.
Unfortunately, we're just stuck in that and we refuse to do the work. And that's why it's important, when we're choosing our partner, have they done the work or not?
Sure.
Have we done the work or not? Because if we haven't, we're going to continuously seek partners that mirror that abandonment wound that we have. Because if you have an abandonment wound, you're constantly seeking the pursuit of, that person that's mysterious is desirable to you. So it's like we're doing this over and over and it's going nowhere and we're just hurting each other and hurting the people around us. And I feel like that's why as couples, we need to heal before we have children. We need to heal even after you leave the relationship. Oh, he was no, you were both the problem.
Right. Are we all taking responsibility for our part in it?
Exactly. Some people, of course, more than others. Sometimes there's someone who's obviously like the abuser in a relationship, but then we go back to the self-worth that you talked about. Like you did tolerate this for a very long time. Why? There's an underlying issue there that we kind of need to understand. There's something in our childhood that we might need to heal, because again, I can't say it enough. We're going to mimic the attachment pattern that we had with our caregivers, with the partners that we choose in our adult life, if we don't do the work.
Right. And where does love bombing come into effect when it comes to our patterns? I think love bombing is a pretty big issue, especially with online dating.
Yeah, because you can paint whatever picture you want, right? And then that person is stuck in that image that you built that they never saw. They're constantly seeking that.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get it. You're not going to find it.
It's like love bombing, breadcrumbing. I think that's one thing that I find that a lot of women are really struggling with too when it comes to online. And then when you take it offline, you end up in these texting situations where you're just texting. There's no actual date. That's one thing.
Oh my God, I don't understand those because it's like you were pursuing me pretty hard, so.
Right. So like, don't you want to see me in person?
But then again, sometimes that gave them that dopamine hit. It gave them that validation. Someone swiped on me. Someone wanted to have a conversation.
Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And I don't think it's ethical. I'm not encouraging it. I'm just explaining what it is.
No, not at all. Yeah. Like going back to, for example, the one person that I was talking to who, wasn't really looking at any other options. I'm like, it could be valid to go on, multiple dates, but it doesn't mean that you're getting involved intimately with every single person that, that you're going on a date with. But like you mentioned before too, kind of being able to see what it is that you like and what you don't like when you're getting into dating.
Yeah. And like when you talk about love bombing, I think part of it is also selling that expectation. And then it ties back into the modern dating experience where we're constantly comparing. We're constantly on social media. The grass looks always greener on the other side. And then we tend to forget that people are showing like the best 1% of their life is what's being portrayed, And there were a couple studies, I don't know the accuracy of them, but they always say like the couple that post the most usually has the most problems and are usually the most unhappy. maybe that's a coping mechanism for them. Maybe if I can convince the world that everything looks good and I can make the image nice and shiny, maybe it actually will end up being that on the inside.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the thing, with the social media and all that. And, you're talking about going on multiple dates. It's sad sometimes because like with the fast paced everything right now, you feel like the minute it gets difficult, we kind of like want to walk away and want to step away from a relationship. And I don't blame people for doing that, because you're like, oh, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the signs before and I don't want to do that again.
Right.
I want to walk away with the least losses possible. But also there were so many relationships where if we had a little bit more compassion, a little bit more patience, a little bit more understanding, maybe it could have blossomed into something beautiful.
Right.
And you see people that were in relationships for like 5 years, 6 years, and 7 years. And I'm not saying you should stay in every relationship. Absolutely, you should walk away from something that's no longer serving you. But it's disheartening because it's like so much memories and time that's been invested. And then how many times are you going to do that in your lifetime? Like, what are you going to do it 7 times? Like, it's exhausting, it's draining, and it's sad. And I feel like, if you don't do the work, again, we go back to doing the work, your baggage gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And it becomes easier to withdraw. It becomes easier to walk away. It becomes safer because you're kind of running away from that exposure. And it's almost a paradox where we're seeking that closeness. We want that intimacy, but at the same time, we're terrified of being exposed and we're so scared of being vulnerable.
Right.
And I feel like the beautiful thing about love is maybe kind of finding that balance in a sense with the right person. But first and foremost, they need to make your nervous system feel safe.
Yeah.
First.
I think there's like a big reflection inward in terms of compassion and patience. So why don't you tell me about what is next for you? Is there anything that you're working on that's bringing a lot of joy to your life?
I'm a multi-passionate person.
I love it.
I wear so many hats. And someone tells you like, oh, you shouldn't be a jack of all trades because then you're a master of none. I'm like, well, if you don't try, you're never going to know.
For sure.
Right now, I'm doing my cognitive behavioral trauma-informed coaching license, finishing up my master's, something I'm very excited about. I can't wait to open a practice.
Amazing.
There's my podcast as well. It's very funny because so what happened was I was in one long-term relationship, and when it ended, I decided, okay, let me start a podcast as a passion project. I knew nothing about podcasts. I didn't even know how to turn a camera on. And then, a friend was like, yeah, let's do it. We ended up doing it. It was just for fun. Like, I swear I did not take it seriously at all. And then summer ended and I stopped doing it. And a couple months after, people were calling me, people were texting me, where's your podcast? I want to sponsor it. I want to be a guest.
Yeah.
I was like, people listen to that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe I should like take this a bit more seriously. And then it ended up becoming a business. We opened up like a podcast studio. And I'm just really excited to kind of like go back to the passion part of it. And maybe I'll have you on as a guest.
Yes,
I just find it fascinating. Like, I love storytelling. I think we connect together through storytelling. I think there's so much power in, talking about mental health and having these conversations. And people think that, but if I talk about my struggles, it takes away from my credibility. I think it's quite the opposite. You give permission to everyone else around you who might be struggling with something similar. You give them permission to get on a platform and speak as well, or maybe just connect with you because you've just done that and you've taken that first step, and there's like a domino effect that comes with it. And I think there's a little healing in speaking. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to go to a psychologist. Leaning on that friend sometimes, we do it now to ChatGPT, and I hate it. I hate it that now we're doing it.
Yes.
But talking heals. We have a saying in Arabic, it says الحكي بيطول العمر, which means like talking prolongs your life in a sense. And they do so many like neuro images and different studies on this, and it's proven. So that's what I'm most excited about, to learn more about people's stories, talk about it, send it out to the world, and maybe settle down eventually.
Well, that's one of the great things about social media is all of the information that you're able to share. And, I think that for a lot of people, if they can't access a mental health professional, being able to access things online is a great way for them to start their healing journey and be exposed to information and things that they might not have had an opportunity to.
Absolutely. That's how we connect together, as a human beings. And every time I post something, it's so nice to see, because now I feel like a lot of males, they come up in the DMs and they open their hearts about the things that they're struggling with. More times than less, it's about relationships and, difficult phases in their life. It's like a monumental moment for them that they're struggling with and they don't know what to do. And it's sad that sometimes they can't turn to someone they trust in their life. But, once you put something out there, like that, they feel comfortable to come to you and have that second opinion. And I don't think like a therapist gives you a solution to your problem. It's just to think of it like a ball of yarn that's like all mixed up, and just helps untangle. When you talk about it, you hear yourself, and you get asked certain questions where you get to reflect and look inwards. I think it's very helpful, and maybe we can move in a sense from intervention towards prevention in our societies and our communities. And I think honestly men are doing a lot better now with that. And I think I read somewhere where this is the most generation where fathers have become more present. They're trying to work more on themselves, and I think maybe we're not giving them enough credit for it, and I'm proud of them for doing that. But it's hard right now, man. It's really hard for our generation. Love's supposed to be beautiful, and I feel like this whole time we were talking about it almost like in a negative lens. It's like heavy, but I think love is beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think that, if people have the right tools, then they can have better relationships.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it, is that we don't always have the right tools. We didn't grow up with them. And so, having online platforms where you can share those kinds of tools and things that people can do can help people have better relationships, which is the whole point of the podcast. Like the whole reason that I even wanted to start a podcast, or that I even started talking about, my relationships with, is not easy for me to do because of my cultural background as well. Is that when I kind of got to the end of my marriage, I really just stopped talking completely. Like literally, that was my response. I withdrew. I was just silent, and I found I was such a great communicator before that I almost had to relearn how to communicate.
But that's key. That's exactly. Oh my God, I got goosebumps. Like that's exactly what it is. That's what healing is. It's kind of just relearning certain patterns and putting your nervous system in new situations where you're kind of teaching it like this is safe and this means that, because let's say you've been stuck in a pattern for 10 years, you're not going to just like relearn that in a day or a week. It takes a lot of work. And there's also sometimes grieving that, you got to grieve that relationship, grieve the expectation that you have of the life, that you thought you were going to have with that person, and the person that you were too, because the person you were in that relationship and before that relationship and after is different. And it can be confusing sometimes.
Well, I was going to say, like, grief is not just when someone passes away.
Exactly.
And in this case, that person could still potentially be in your life in some ways. They could be in the same circle. If you have children together, you're definitely having to communicate from time to time.
Yeah.
And then it's like sometimes you're reliving.
It's a constant reminder. Almost. I can't imagine that. Like, I'm the type of person where it's so hard for me to let go.
Right.
Like, maybe I'll be able to deal with death, but to be able to deal with the loss of someone that is still there, it can have like insurmountable pain almost. And it's like when they say, oh, ignorance is bliss. Like, I know that I'm the type of person, and I think you're the same, because, energy doesn't lie. I feel like we feel things so intensely.
Yeah.
And oh my God, that could be so heavy. And I get mad at myself because, like, the more you get to know who you are and you do the work and so on and so forth, like, okay, this is not right for me. This is not good for me. But I want it so bad.
Sure.
But it's not the right thing. Yeah. So it's like you walk away, you choose yourself in a sense, but then, there's a grieving process. And it's okay to be there for a while. I feel like also there's an expectation where, oh, I got to be the one to move on first. And I got to look like I'm doing great. And I got to look like I'm doing better. And I'm going to go into a great relationship so that I could prove to everyone else that I wasn't the problem. Yeah. Because look at me here. I'm in a great relationship. So I was not the issue here. He was the issue. And it's like, if we could just let go of that, it does not matter who's right. It does not matter who's wrong. Even when you're still in a relationship, you can't be right and happy.
Yes.
All the time.
So we got to let go of the ego.
Exactly. You know, the divorce lawyer says your ego is not your amigo, right? Because in an argument, if you win, you lost. Yeah. And if you lost, you lost. Yeah. You know? Because if you're right and you proved your point, you just made the other person feel small in that moment. And what good does that do? You know, that's where like the compassion needs to come in. Mm-hmm. You don't always have to be right. And it's me and you against the problem. Mm-hmm. It's not me against you.
Yes.
You can't be keeping a scoreboard in the back of your head of like, I apologize the last time. They need to apologize this time. No, it's okay. Meet the people where they are and keep your individuality. But, you know, you kind of have like that Venn diagram of there's the you, there's the me, and there's the we. You know, the we is beautiful, but if you get engulfed in the we, there's a problem because you're losing your individuality, and that's where kind of like resentment might build up.
Yes.
And you feel like you're shrinking yourself and you have a loss of sense of who you are almost. But then you also can't be too immersed in yourself and forget the other person. So it's kind of that balance between the three of the you,
Right.
the me, and the we. And I think it's the same in our arguments and in our discussions, because you talked about the divorce and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're better off as co-parents than they
Sure.
were as partners.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, anyone who chooses divorce, good for you for choosing yourself, you know, if it's not working. Because the longer you stay in a relationship that's not serving you, you're going to burn out.
Oh, yeah. And I think, you know, in our case, we didn't want it to affect the kid. And I know I can tell you for sure that it was the best decision for all of us.
I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. You know, I think we came to a lot of realizations, and yeah, we have a good co-parenting relationship now. We were really concerned about, you know, like the energy around the kids. And I know for sure that it was a good thing for them. Maybe as they grow up, you know, we'll kind of see the effects of that. But just, you know, when I'm looking at them now, I know that it was a good decision. So.
Yeah, because it's so much better to grow up in two happy homes, you know, than to grow up in one home that is chaotic and disruptive.
Yes.
And you're also like showing them what to accept and not accept in a relationship. And that's why I like to say sometimes the anger or the choosing yourself, like that's not a bad emotion, because that's how you draw your boundaries. This is what I accept and this is what I don't accept. So all the respect to you for doing that. It's really hard. And I feel like a lot of moms and dads, you know, they feel guilty for choosing themselves because they think it's almost like, oh, I'm abandoning my child, or I'm making them feel a certain way, and they're not going to grow up with a mom and a dad in the same household. It's really, really hard. But, you know, sometimes you got to like pick your battles and have that priority list of what is more important to them right now. What am I trying to teach them, in a sense? And also not to lose yourself in the process, because they sense that even when they're young. They sense if you're happy, they sense if you're unhappy, and they end up having a very similar temperament to the one that you have, even when they're babies. Like even when you're pregnant, the baby senses your temperament, and more times it's a higher probability that it's going to get that temperament that's very similar to yours, because that's what they grew up with.
Right. And I guess like after divorce, I think a lot of parents really get to show their kids, you know, their individuality, who it is that they really are. Like that's when the children actually get to experience that parent for the person that they are.
Yeah.
So.
Was it hard to date after divorce?
Oh, it was, I mean, it was a big learning curve for me, because I got married, I think when I was 23, turning 24, I was 24. And so all of my friends were online dating. So, right? Like that's what all of my friends were doing while I was married. So then I get to my 30s, and now if I want to meet someone, I'm actually online dating. I'd never done that before. So I've learned a lot in 10 years, basically, because what you're looking for changes, right? Like I came out of a marriage and I'm like, well, I'm looking for my next husband. But no, actually what I really needed to do was go back to learning about who you are, you know, and what are the things that I like to do, and what are, you know, the qualities that I might be looking for, you know, in my next partner. So I needed to date. And so that's what I have done. And I've been in some relationships, some not great relationships, but I learned a lot. And now when I date, I'm very intentional about how it is that I date. And I've gained a lot of confidence and a lot of tools that I can use when I'm going into dating. So it's not as much of a shock anymore, right? But no, I mean, I certainly enjoy it now, and I'm grateful for the experience.
Would you say that you've been in love before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've been in love. I've had heartbreak as well, but I'm hopeful.
More than once, in love?
Yes, I'd say twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that for you.
Yeah. That's an experience, right? That I'm always grateful for. And so, yeah, I continue to be hopeful that one day I meet the person that, you know, that I'll spend the rest of my life with, because that's something that I want for myself. But I'm okay to keep continuing the journey until I meet that
scary.
person.
It's a scary journey. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on was, you know, when we talk about doing the work, do you think that awareness is a big part of that?
Oh my God, absolutely. If you don't know who you are,
Yeah.
how do you know what you want?
Right.
You know, how can you say this is the type of person that I want to be with if I don't know what I am? I don't know what my needs are. How can I say they fit the criteria or not? Right? And then it's also like, what am I portraying to them? What am I showing them? If I get lost in every partner, like there's almost a performance in a sense where it's not who you are anymore. You're performing because you have no idea who you are. And it's not in a like a harsh criticism sense. It's more of like, let's say you're a trauma survivor, there is a loss of identity that comes with that. And we're biologically wired to seek closeness, and seek attachments and people that are around us and want to form these relationships. But the foundation of that starts like with you. If you're unhappy, no one's going to make you happy. If you don't have a sense of self-worth, no amount of external validation is going to give you that. Your sense of self-worth is going to fluctuate with people's ability or inability to see your worth. And that's very dangerous because that's where we start tolerating being in the wrong relationships, like narcissists, for example, they thrive on
They know where to go in. I mean,
exactly. And it's like, oh, well, if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. And it's like the more you have awareness, I think there's a huge correlation between your awareness and your sense of self-worth. And you begin to appreciate yourself more. And it's easier for you to communicate your needs. And it's easier for you to accept certain things and draw the lines on the important deal breakers. And also, you're not operating from a place of a fear of loneliness. When you're seeking companionship, it's more of like, I have this beautiful life and I have all this love and I want to share it with the right person so that we can amplify it together. It's not that I am with someone from a place of emotional dependency where it's something I need. And that's where we go back to kind of the forms of attachment, where it's very common to see people who have an anxious attachment style go for people who have an avoidant attachment style and vice versa. They seek each other because then there's that push and pull. Where one is continuously in that pursuit of that intimacy and validation and closeness from one, and the other one is overwhelmed and is pulling away.
Right.
And without realizing it, unconsciously, because we're not aware of who we are, we're stuck in this loop over and over. And then you get to a place where it's like, what am I doing wrong? And that's where you have that aha moment that I hope all people have, where it's like, okay, I must be doing something wrong. There's something underlying.
Yes.
Let's take a moment to reflect on it and figure out what it is. And it's scary, but it's so liberating, to be honest. It's so liberating. And that's also when you stop taking rejection so personally. Because when you don't have self-awareness and you don't have self-worth, every rejection to you is like a testament to who you are. It's always something that I did. I must not be good enough. I must not be pretty enough. I must not be whatever. But most times, like, people, when they treat you a certain way, it has more to do with them and what they're struggling with and what they're going through than it has to do with you. And when you have that awareness and you know who you are, you stop taking it so personally. It's just, okay, we're not the right fit. And you move on and you find the right fit after. And that's why it's very important for us to be happy before we jump into relationships.
And if you were to leave something with everyone, would you say that it's to be happy and to have awareness?
I would say it's to get to know our inner child as much as possible. That person is going to stay with you. I love to touch on trauma as much as possible because people think trauma is like this huge thing that happened. It's
right,
this,
like you got into a car accident,
Exactly.
but it could be other life events that have happened.
Yeah, it could be like not being listened to enough as a kid. It could be, needing something and not getting it. It could be you chasing a sense of safety that you're lacking. You can have great parents and you can have a great childhood and still have trauma. That's okay. It doesn't go away. The body keeps the score. They wrote a book on it. Oh my God, it's such a hard read, but I really recommend it to everyone. Okay. It doesn't go away. Just because you're in a relationship that's working right now, it doesn't mean that the unresolved things that you're not dealing with and you're, sweeping under the rug are just going to go away. It's going to come back. Sometimes it comes back when you have children, not in your relationship. So if I could leave something with people is get to know your inner child, do the hard work, have the difficult conversations, get to know who you are, because I really think you're going to find a lot of things to love about yourself, not in spite of the flaws, but, with the flaws, all of it together, it makes you the beautiful person that you are. And as a result of that, your self-worth is going to grow, your confidence is going to grow, your approach to dating, your approach to love, your perspective on it is going to change. And it's not going to come from a place of needing to fill a void anymore. It's going to come more of a place of let's amplify and let's share this journey together. And there's nothing wrong with seeking that companionship. I know, like, independent women, sometimes you try, oh, I don't need love, I don't need this. I think love is beautiful. I think we all want to love and want to be in love and want to give love. There's also something really beautiful about being able to pour into someone else.
Yes.
So yeah, get to know that inner child and listen to them, and then maybe you'll meet your partner and you guys will run towards the horizon together. Playground or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for the conversation today. I think it's going to be so helpful for many people. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better.
Me too.
And maybe we'll do this again another time.
Yes, thank you for having me.